Finance Minister Bill Morneau was clearly on the defensive after a report from Canada's budget watchdog revealed the government may have overpaid for the Trans Mountain pipeline by, get this, almost $1 billion. The government purchased the project for $4.5 billion after the court challenges and protests made it too risky for Kinder Morgan. But now the budget watchdog says it could be worth as low as $3.6 billion. And here's where it gets worse. Delays could cost up to $700 million a year. With an estimated completion date of late 2021, is the pipeline turning into a money pit? Let's bring in the MPs. Paul Lefebvre is the Parliamentary Secretary to the Natural Resources Minister. He joins us from Quebec City today. Candice Bergen is the Conservative House Leader. She's with me here in studio. And coming to us from Montreal is the NDP's Environment and Climate Change critic, Alexandre Boulris. Good morning to all of you. Mr. Lefebvre, let me just start with you. Did the government overpay for the pipeline, and why did you pay at the highest end of the estimate?
Even the PBO report acknowledges that not all the assets were actually valued in this transaction. So $4.1 billion, it was actual price paid when you take in the net cost, when you factor in the capital gains that Kinder Morgan would have to pay. Now, when you actually factor in the related assets, this is a terminal and this is a Puget Sound pipeline, that actually increases the value a lot of this. This has significant value, so we need to take that into consideration. Okay. And the PBO acknowledges that he did not take that into consideration.
Well, because it hasn't been built yet. Candice Bergen, what do you make of that explanation?
Well, first of all, this was a pipeline that the government, the Liberals, never needed to buy using taxpayers' dollars. There was a private company ready, willing, and able to build a pipeline, but because of the way Trudeau and the Liberals have botched this file, they wanted to abandon it. So here we see again Trudeau, and this is what we've been saying recently. This guy is spending your money, doesn't care how much it costs, doesn't care about the mistakes he makes, because in the end, guess who's on the hook, and he's going to have to pay for it? The Canadian taxpayer. Now, that, and in addition to, we do not have a pipeline built. We are still seeing jobs lost in Alberta
if they do build it,
and across the country.
Fair, if they build it and then there's a delay, it could cost $700 million.
And that's why we stepped in.
If they do build it, is it worth it, Candice Bergen?
No, I don't believe that it is. First of all, I don't think they're going to build it. Wow. This is Trudeau's plan. Trudeau said he wanted to phase out the oil sands. He's bought this pipeline. There is no hope in sight for it getting built. And everything we've seen this guy touch, he does not do well. He fails at. So I don't have a lot of confidence in the Liberals. I certainly don't have confidence in Trudeau's judgment when it comes to buying things with other people's money.
Okay, Alexandre Boulris, you jump in here. Your party said the government got fleeced on this. I mean, again, it's an estimate that they bought it, and it could be the high end. What's your take on this?
You know, politics is about choices, and Liberals, Trudeau, they could have, invest in fighting housing crisis or make life more affordable for Canadians, but instead they bought an old leaky pipeline, and what was a bad deal from the beginning, we just learned from the PBO report that it's just worse because we paid too much. We probably lost $1 billion, and because the courts are saying, the asset evaluation was badly made, we will probably lose $700 million a year. So this is really a bad advancement, and it's wrong for the Canadian economy.
It was a terrible decision by the Prime Minister, and again, he's making these decisions, bad decisions, in so many of the files that he's supposed to be leading and doing something good for the country. And this is a prime example of his mistake and Canadians having to pay.
This is a Canadian investment job in the Canadian resource sector.
The money's being lost.
Let me hear from Mr. Lefebvre. You've heard the opposition. What's your take on they're saying you got fleeced on this?
Well, listen. Well, actually, as I said before, the PBO even acknowledges that he did not take all the related assets in the valuation, and he didn't even also consider the potential of what this pipeline would bring in. He says that if this pipeline moves forward, they will actually increase the price differential by $5. And in a year, that is $6 billion added to our GDP. That is not even taken into consideration the actual the value of bringing actually this new oil to new markets.
Right now, I've got a beachfront in Arizona.
90% of our oil is going to one market, and it is actually lower than actually the value of what that it should be. And we are focused on getting this right.
You made a big mistake. You bought a pipeline that you didn't need to buy. You sent over $4 billion billion to an American-based company and all the jobs with it. And the way that I cannot believe that you are defending this decision and questioning the PBO's report. It was clear, and it's what experts, I mean, no one else was lining up to buy it. That was the other thing. Remember, the Liberals said, oh, we're going to buy it, but there's all kinds of people ready to buy it, and we're going to make a profit. No, not so much. So why don't you just admit you blew it? You blew it, and Canadians are having to pay for your mistake.
Okay, but hang on, Mr. Lefebvre. I want to get your answer, but okay, but hang on. I just want to. Because you're trying to make the case that there's value for money, that if this gets built, it will be worth billions of dollars. But just going back to the PBO report, Mr. Lefebvre, if every year delay, there's already been a year delay, it's $700 million is lost. But here's the other element. If there's a rise of 10% in construction costs, it will take another $453 million out of the pipeline. So I'm just, how do you look at Canadians? And now we've had an independent officer of Parliament say you bought it at the high end, potentially $1 billion more. We know Kinder Morgan profited at least $1.3 billion on this thing. You've got $700 million worth of delay, and potentially, if construction costs rises, and they are, $453 million. How is that value for your money?
Well, because at the end of the day, this is an investment in our natural resource sector. This is an investment in Canadian jobs. And because we need to move forward with our natural resources, because again, as I said, 99% of our oil goes to one market. Kinder Morgan will not have expanded the pipeline given the political risk that was associated with this project. We needed to step in, and we did. At the same time, we know that there is more work to be done with properly consulting with Indigenous peoples, and at the same time making sure that we get our environment piece right. When I hear candidates talk about basically how the Conservatives would have done a better job, I chuckle, because at the end of the day, they're actually citing a PBO report, and we know for the past 10 years, the Conservatives had disregarded the PBO at every turn that they could, and they cut corners. They disregarded their obligations with Indigenous peoples, and they disregarded the environment. They say that this could be built alone, and right now we have a price differential, and that is seriously affecting our Canadian economy. We are aware of that, but that's why we respect the Federal Court of Appeal decision that we know the Conservatives do not at all.
All right, I want to get in Mr. Bouleris in there. I know, Candice Bergen, you want to respond to that, but Mr. Bouleris, just real quick, again, I know your party doesn't support this pipeline. The Liberals do, though, and they believe that this is going to bring $6 billion, if it gets built, back into the economy by changing the price differential. What's your party's response to that?
Yeah, it's quite easy, you know. If we are going to spend $4.5 billion to buy an old pipeline, and after that maybe $10 billion to the expansion, if the courts allowed that, we all know, and the studies shows, that if you invest that kind of money in renewable energy, you are going to create 4 times more jobs, 4 times more jobs. And it's jobs that will be there in the long term for the future in our communities. This is the right choice. And Liberals are making bad decisions on the energy of the past. And let's remind everybody that it was too risky for Kinder Morgan. They tried to sell that to the other private companies. It was too risky for them, and Trudeau decided that the risk should be on the shoulders of Canadian taxpayer. We disagree with that.
I got to leave it there, everybody. Thank you so much. There's a long debate ahead. Mr. Lefebvre, Ms. Bergen, Mr. Bouleris, great to have all three of you back on the program.